Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This presentation, Safety in Our Schools, is an opportunity for you to hear what our efforts are in the district and each of our schools to ensure the safety, health, and welfare of all of our students and staff. We have a number of people who are very integral to that process present here. We have a presentation to share some information with you, and we hope that that will assure you, and when you leave here, that you'll be assured that we are doing all that we can to make sure that all of our students and our staff are safe. I'll turn this program over to Mr. Victor Carlson, who's the Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, whose office is responsible for the SHEP work and all the teams that are responsible for making sure that the procedures that we have in place, that we follow, that we practice, are done with fidelity throughout the school year, so that, unfortunately, if something were to happen, we would be in hopefully able to take care of those situations with a certain level of assuredness to the extent that it's possible. So with that said, and I will come back in a moment to just share some more information with you about an SPO that will be at the CD Star Intermediate School, and tell you what the differences are between the SPO and the SRO. So with that said, Mr. Carlson.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Before we get started, I just want to introduce a couple members of our, our safety team here. We have Mr. Andy Bates, who's our Director of Facilities, also our Chief Emergency Officer. And also I want to introduce two of our partners from Putnam Northern BOCES. We participate in a COSER with Putnam Northern BOCES for safety planning, and Carol Sneed has been assigned to our district as our safety technician. Also, Mr. Frank Guglieri is the safety coordinator for Putnam Northern BOCES. And it's extremely beneficial to the district that they work with us, because they are the ones out getting all of the new regulations from the federal and state governments, that they come back and then share with us any new developments in safety and emergency response planning. So we're very thankful that they are assisting us in this endeavor to obviously continuously improve the safety of our schools. So safety, of course, begins with planning, and as I just mentioned, we're part of that COSER. More formally, we have building level and a district-wide safety committee. So the building level teams obviously operate at each of the 4 school buildings, and then collectively they roll up into a greater district-wide team. Our district-wide safety team is more commonly referred to as SHEP, School Health and Emergency Preparedness. And the participants on that committee are obviously people from each of the school buildings, but we also partner with the state police, the Putnam County Sheriff's Department. Each of our SROs are on our SHEP committee, and also the Putnam County Bureau of Emergency Services. So you can see that we bring in lots of experts to assist us in developing our emergency response plans, not just for the district as a whole, but specifically to each school building. At those SHEP committee meetings and the building level safety meetings, we review our emergency response plans. We discuss any new developments that Carol and Frank will share with us, that anything developing at the federal or state level. We subscribe to a unified system of response called the Incident Command System, and that was developed by FEMA. So each of the members of our safety team have been provided with an incident command chart that outlines all of the different roles in an emergency response. So if in the event someone were unavailable during an emergency, someone else could assume that role. So it's important that we all have these, we all are aware of all of the roles within these guidelines, and that we're able to assume those roles if necessary. We provide annual safety training to all of our staff before September 15th of each school year. And when I say all staff, I mean all staff. So even those who are not directly involved with students, from food service employees to bus drivers, monitors, mechanics, maintenance, and then of course everybody involved in the school building, teachers, custodians, cleaners, teacher aides, administrators. Every single employee in the district receives annual safety training before September 15th. And
included in the safety training is a few of the things that we'll cover tonight. But in addition to the emergency responses,
We also provide resources for mental health resources to help people to find information that they will need, not just for students, identifying issues with students, but also in adults. Some of the physical controls that we have here in the district, we have a visitor management system known as Scholarship. So visitors who come to the buildings must provide a photo identification in order to enter the building. They're provided with an ID badge that they're required to wear at all times while in the buildings. We completed 2 years ago a district-wide safety and security project where we installed door access controls and video camera surveillance system. We have radio communications where we have walkie-talkies district-wide, of course, but we have also provided each of our 3 SROs with walkie-talkies so we're all able to communicate on the same system. Dr. Henning, would you like to discuss our anonymous alert system?
In 2016, we adopted Anonymous Alerts, which is an online or web-based system that allows anyone in the community in the district to report an incident, and it could be any number of things. Now, first and foremost, within the district, we hope that our students have a trusted adult that they seek out if they want to report something, but sometimes they don't, and they prefer to report it anonymously. The system has been used by community members as well as by students. It is truly anonymous. We do, meaning the administrators do respond to those by letting the reporter know that we have it, or if there's information that we can share with them with regards to how the issue was resolved, we do that as well. That's out on our marquee, that's right out here next to the school. The number is there, and it's also on our website, and we have actually gotten some really useful information that's been phoned in. So as you know, for a while, Deputy Nooner, who's in the back, and you know our deputies, Deputy Nooner, Deputy Tracy, Deputy Super. Deputy Nooner has been tasked with covering both CD Star and here at H.H. Wells, and that was not a good solution, and we now, with the help of our Board of Education, is in the process of identifying an SPO. And an SPO is a school patrol officer. That person has to be a retired corrections officer or a police officer. They have to have been recently retired. They are fully uniformed. I think their shirt is a little different, a different color. They are armed with a weapon. They have a duty belt, a taser, radio, and all of the other tools that are part of that belt. They cannot make arrests, they cannot enter classrooms, so they would need the assistance of an SRO were they to be asked to make an arrest. They go through the same firearm training as our SROs, and they need certification. They also don't have a patrol car. So that person, as soon as that person is identified, as I said, has already been approved by Board of Education. We're simply waiting to have that person or person identified so that we can interview them and put them into place, hopefully before the end of the school year.
So I mentioned that Putnam Northern BOCES assists us in training exercises, and I'm going to turn it over to Cal Sneed so she can describe some of these trainings that we subscribe to.
Good evening. Do you hear me? Sounds funny to me. The first training that my phone's not on. This is my key. Okay, sorry. The first training that we provided to the district this past year, we reviewed some people, but we also provided fresh training, is incident command training. Incident command is a framework for responding to an emergency, and it includes formal roles and responsibilities that each person is assigned to so that they are all speaking the same language. Incident command was first, was actually required by anybody receiving tax dollars by a presidential directive, PPD 8, number 8. And so schools have been working on getting an understanding of this, and it's so that they can speak the same language as other first responders. So that if a fire chief or someone arrives, they're talking about the same roles and the same responsibilities. We are providing threat assessment training specifically on Thursday at BOCES, and we're going to have a seminar given on the threat assessment process, and we're really excited about that. And I believe there's 5 people from Brewster coming. We've also provided de-escalation training, which is a way of dealing with people who are getting upset. Your greeters and monitors have had that training in the past, and we will be doing another review. We've done greeter training. We've gone through scenarios with them. We've talked to them about what would you do if, how would you handle somebody who came to you. We had one of our door greeters who threw a stapler at my old boss because of the energy that was involved, and it was really cool because it was a good response at the time. We've also worked with the playground monitors, and we talked to the playground monitors about what their role and what their responsibilities are and how they can help keep your students safe by being vigilant and by not grouping into small clusters and by paying attention to what's going on and around the playground. And we've also been providing tabletop exercises. A tabletop exercise is it's a scenario where you sit down and just chat about something that's happening, and it's all made up in my head mostly. And we talk about what would you do if this is what's happening, how would you respond? And it's a really good way of working through a problem without having a real situation occurring. We've been doing those in all of the buildings with all of the building teams and also with the SHEP committee. And then we also add training as needed. So if something new comes along or if something different happens, then we come in and we provide that training as well. Thank you.
Good evening. A few of our annual drills are locked down. They're required by state to do 4 a year. Evacuation drills, 8 per year per building. The reason why walkway is bulleted underneath it is once you're in a evacuation, you have the kids all standing around in the parking lot and say a fire alarm. That would be a reason for evacuation. No one knows the reason why the fire alarm went off. We have to wait for the first responders to respond, and it may be inclement weather. We don't want the kids hanging out, staying outside in the rain, snow, or cold weather, so we would evacuate them to another school to keep them safe, warm, and dry until we assess the situation and can allow them back into the building. Another one is elopement. Elopement is required by the state. Special needs children have a special addendum in their files that said they're a flight risk and elopement risk, so we have to make a plan to safeguard them and safeguard everyone else. Shelter in place, that is not mandated, but we go above and beyond to do those things, and hold in place as well. Okay, emergency response and protocols are called SHEL. Shelter in place when something is going on, not for safe leaving the building, whether inclement weather, spills, chemicals, etc. Radiological emergencies would be something like Indian Point. We are a reception center for Indian Point, so if anything went on down there, we have to act as well because we're outside of the 10-mile radius. So they would contact us, and then we would put our plans into place and move the kids around. Hold in place. Something is happening in the building, and we need to keep the students away from affected areas. Medical emergencies, odors, concerning behaviors, physical altercations. Evacuations sometimes happen, excuse me. A little dry, sorry. Thank you. fires, chemical spills, gas leaks, etc., forces an evacuation of the building. So that's when we put our either our walk-away plans into effect, walk to another building, or to an off-site evacuation center. Lockouts, we need to keep someone out of the building, criminal activity in the neighborhood, wild or rabid animal sightings. We've had bears, we've had coyotes, we've had raccoons. So, we've had that before. Lockdown is the last stage, when we have an active intruder in the building, a weapon, threat of weapons. We lock the kids down in the classrooms and closets everywhere and make sure they're out of sight and they're quiet until the police can respond. And that's the only way they can come out of a lockdown, is if the police go to the door, unlock the door, and allow the children and teachers to come out of their classrooms. I would like to turn it over, I'd like to turn it over to John Conroy, who is the assistant principal of JFK.
It might be better. I am accused of having a big mouth. Maybe I should stay away from the microphone a little. Thank you, my sidekick, Deputy Supa. As an administrator in this day and age, not that this is what the meeting's about, but it is, we cannot tell you how grateful we are to have SROs in our district. We've had it for so long that even my family, who know what I do for a living, are surprised when we talk about the fact that we have uniformed officers in our building and the amount of time and the number of years we've had it. So a simple thank you to everybody in this district for what we do and what we provide. So at JFK, just to follow up, if there are questions or concerns when a moment is right, but an example for us today, I'm really just going to restate what was already up on the board. It's not just paramount. Every moment we as staff walk in the building, unfortunately today, our focus is keeping the children safe. We're not focused on the math and the reading and the writing. We look at our environment. We look at the number of cars in the parking lot. We think about the weather outside. We think about what's going on within our building, directly outside of our building, our communications with ourselves and the other buildings within the district are strong. So for ourselves this morning, we did a two for today. We normally don't do two drills at one time, but a simple concrete example for everybody. We had our third and final bus evacuation drill for the year. That is when the kids basically sit and slide. We open our back doors, they get the training from the bus staff, they hop out the back seat, and they enter the building from there. We also had a lockdown drill today. So again, Mother Nature has played with us a bit the last couple of weeks. So as a result, we ended up doing a lockdown today. The children are really impressive because, especially for us with the little kids, K1, 2 level, the concern is how do you express and make it the urgency that it needs to be and the seriousness that it needs to be, and also be gentle and kind and have that TLC that the little ones need in order to not be scared or nervous. So that is our views of
Yeah.
Would you like to care?
Sure.
Maybe a little comment about
Of course, our drill is going to be a little bit different than it would be at the high school level. Just like Mr. Conroy was saying, we definitely want to make sure that we are gearing these drills to make it age appropriate to them. We don't want to bring the harsh realities of society on our kids, especially in kindergarten, at that level at this point. But we want them to also understand that it's very important. The reason why we're doing these drills is to keep them safe. So they need to understand that they need to be prepared and ready to act on these drills. One of the ways we kind of do this in our building is that we talk about, some of the kids might have already talked to you about this, is stinky skunk. So when we're hiding from somebody or in a lockdown drill, we're hiding from stinky skunk. All right, this helps lighten the mood for the kids. I mean, it was surprising to me, it wasn't as a parent that, some kids are just very, you'd say have agitation or get very nervous just hearing about safety drills. So we're not trying to scare them. We want them to be able to react to situations and feel prepared. And that way they know how to react. and that lowers their anxiety. So by doing those little twists on our drills that you wouldn't do at high school, that you do at our level, it just helps makes it all better and helps them understand and relax a little bit. And the kids are, I mean, it's amazing. They really come together and they can do amazing things even at such a young age. Very proud of them.
Deputy Super's a little humble. There is another rationale, and there is another reason why the kids do so well, and they take things lightly, but also follow the rules well. And that is because Deputy Super goes into every single classroom. So you have that intimate experience with the deputy, not only as a first responder, but also as a dad, and also as an educator. And this is really what the resource is for, right? The deputies aren't just there to protect us, they're also there as an additional resource in many avenues, and also to teach the kids. So the deputy goes into every single classroom and reviews the parameters, reviews those invisible lines. Sometimes we make them visible, other times they are literally and figuratively invisible, and the children know where to hide, how to hide. They also know how to make obstructions. That is the wonderful thing with the little kids. Elementary teachers do have a lot of stuff, but we take advantage of that stuff. Now let's also be realistic. Those items aren't bulletproof. Those items are not necessarily going to stop things that cause serious damage. But in terms of the mindset and what we want your children to know and understand, and we also want our staff to know and understand, one of the most important things I think I impress upon my staff as an administrator and as a dad is, whether they like it or not, they need to be prepared and respond in a way that is going to keep both themselves and your children safe. So this morning, last comment I'll share is, I overheard a teacher, as I was checking the rooms, mention to a child to be quiet. And that's all you need to know that somebody's in the room. So we go back, we review that, we practice that. So that goes back to the mindset and situational awareness. A lot of people ask us now, especially after what's just unfolded in the recent past in Florida, what are you doing? What do you do? What do you do differently? So the wonderful thing is, we do so many things so well. And now we look back, just like you would as a terrorist organization in New York City and the police departments. You look and you see what's happened in other situations, and how can we learn from that? So it's basically not that we do things differently. We're not going to add 7 additional drills. It's the mindset we need to have when we conduct the drills. And that's that gentle tweak of changing gears, unfortunately, as a result of things that unfold in society today. Okay, that's us at JFK. Thank you, everybody.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Cherry, the interim principal at CV Star. I've made some changes to our safety procedures to ensure that all students are as safe as possible at all times. For morning arrival, once the front door greeter is at her post at 7:30, the front door is unlocked while students are arriving for before school classes or for band. However, now it's locked again at 8 o'clock until 8:45 when students arrive by bus. Parents bringing their child to school by car are observed by staff in the rear parking lot and in the front entrance with SRO Mike Noonan. Bus arrivals are observed by several staff members and our SRO. For dismissal, I've moved dismissal to the entrance by the art room for parent pickup. This will alleviate parents walking through Wells and CV Star. SRO Mike Nooner will stand by the check-in table and monitor any parent or person who is unfamiliar to staff and who has not been previously approved for picking up a student. He will escort them to the front door greeter to be checked in with our scholarship system. This is a change and will be shared with parents both in hard copy and in Bear's backpack before it goes into effect on April 5th. Our SRO is always in attendance for evening meetings when many parents enter the buildings for an event. those are the changes that I have put in place for CV Star. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Clark. I'm the principal of this school. This is De Jesus.
Hello, I'm Christian De Jesus, the assistant principal.
Yeah. And you're on my corner. So I think one of the most important things we do is we are basically greeting the kids every day when they come into the building. Okay? So when the kids are starting to flow into the building, we're there to say good morning to them. We're there to, we have a smile on our face. And it's not just us, it's also our school psychologist is there every morning to greet them. Our social worker is there to greet them as well. So it's a matter of, and then if kids are getting dropped off down below, we have teachers down there to greet them as well. So we can kind of see what the kids are coming in with, what, the type of attitude they're coming in with. We know their names, we learn their habits, we know who they hang out with. So that's such a critical part of sort of, what we do in terms of just assessing where the kids are each day, getting to know them, getting comfortable with their patterns. And putting a smile on their faces. If they don't have a smile on their face, we try to greet them and start the day the right way. We have a greeter protocol, so if you've ever tried to come here during the day, you know that you have to go through the scholarship system, you have to present your license, we run a background check on you, we print a sticker up for you. That happens to anybody who visits the school. They mentioned briefly in the initial presentation the security cameras. I can't tell you how much we use the security cameras. We use them all the time because if there's something that happens in the school, it records it, and we can always go back and we can say, look, this happened here, there was a report of a fight, we have to get the details of the fight, so we go to the SRO, Deputy Junior, can you look this up from this time to this time? So they have evidence for us, okay, which sometimes the parents aren't too pleased about because they try to say, well, my kid wouldn't do that. So, yeah, well, I mean, it's on the video. But same thing on the school buses, right? So we have videos on the school buses, and we remind kids of these things all the time, so they are accountable for their behavior. Arrival and dismissal, all the kids when they come in the morning, they come in through the front doors, or they come in through the parent drop-off. Again, those are staffed with administrators or staffed with teachers, and that's where they're all coming from. The teachers are coming into the lower teacher parking lot, and they have a fob. So we just got these new fobs today, ID fobs. So when you come into the building, you have to fob your way into the building, otherwise you're not getting in. And then I was going to let you talk a little bit about the building level safety team for the drills.
So as a building level safety team, we meet several times throughout the year. Mrs. Sneed has definitely joined our team as well. We go over drills, all procedures and protocols. After every drill, we meet as a team to debrief about anything and everything. It could be, this is where we can figure out, it could be something as simple as a cylinder on a door, a key that's not working. Several things are picked up during our drills, barriers to doorways. And Deputy Nooner is very hands-on during this process. He goes into every classroom. He debriefs with each teacher in class and gives them direct feedback. It's very specific. It's, I saw a sneaker on the left side of the doorway. And we'll examine if, this means the class should push back more, or maybe they need, a better barrier on the doorway. But it's very specific feedback for each classroom and each teacher.
I just wanted to say one more thing. If you've got, we've done these, I've been here for a long time, but we've done these fire drills. I mean, we can pretty much have every single kid accounted for, I'd say within less than 10 minutes. Okay, we can actually walk kids, we can take kids' attendance within 10 minutes. We'll have attendance for everybody in the entire building. We could walk over to the high school. We could have everybody seated in the high school, and we could have attendance taken again, and the whole process would be probably less than 25 minutes or so. So we've gotten pretty good at it, just because the way we've done it. I don't know if anybody remembers Pat Frischie, but she was a teacher here for a long time. She's involved with the fire department, and she whipped us all into shape a long time ago. And so we have zones set up, so as soon as kids go out for an evacuation drill, they know where to go, they're put into a zone. We have zone marshals with each zone, and it really is just truly impressive. So, feel pretty good about it. Thank you.
So I'm Mrs. Waller, and this is Officer Kresge. So at the high school, we do everything that they do at JFK, CV Star, and at Wells. But I like to think that we are a little more intense with our procedures, and it could be because Matt is very intense as an SRO. The first lockdown drill we had, he went into our faculty meeting to debrief, and then he said, okay, there's 19 female dead. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, but this was with faculty. And it was a way to make things a little more serious, to know that you have the health and safety of hundreds of children in your classroom every single day. And that if you don't take these drills seriously, then you're not doing your job. So when we do our lockdown drills, the last one we did in conjunction with state police, other emergency responders. It took us over an hour to do a complete lockdown of the entire building. We had the dogs, we had canine officers in with multiple dogs, and we did 4 dogs. We searched lockers, every single hallway, every single classroom, parking lots, cars. We searched everything together with the police. And it took us over an hour, and that was an abridged way of doing a real lockdown and seeing where we had problems, where, if the key didn't work, why didn't this key work, or why did I see your elbow? Every single time we have one of these drills, we debrief together as an administrative team with Matt, and then we debrief with the faculty. We also talk to all of our students about it. This is what's happening in real time, and this is what should happen, and this is what shouldn't happen. We have the luxury of having a very dynamic demo congress, and they give us monthly updates on how they're feeling about the safety of the building, what we can do to improve specific things during fire drill, during evacuation drills, those are the old fire drills, how we can improve it, how we can do better drills during lunch periods and unstructured time, and how we can be held, how our students and ourselves can be held more accountable, and we're always looking to improve that.
The one thing, I think the theme that every school has put out here tonight is that school safety is a living, breathing thing. It changes. When an event happens somewhere, we learn from it. We take it in, we figure out the things that we can do as a team, as a district, on a building by building level to make our schools stronger. Our goal is to increase survivability. That's what we're looking to do. Our goal is to keep our students, faculty, staff, visitors as safe as possible. The one thing about Brewster School District is that we work so closely with so many different entities between State Police, Sheriff's Department, BOCES, Bureau of Emergency Management. Everybody brings something to the table to make this a much stronger unit. And I think that it is shown in the drills that we do. I know I've noticed it. The SRO's got a new supervisor this year, who also happens to be the commander of the SWAT team for Putnam County. And when he came in and saw how our drills were run, he was impressed. He said, wow, you guys are ICS, you do all this stuff. He said, and he didn't think that at a school level that we would be implementing these kind of things. So even to have somebody, like Sergeant Zabel come in from the outside, really, he never had experience as an SRO. He had virtually no school experience at all, coming into the supervisory role, and to see what we're doing, and blew him away, which really made us feel really good that, hey, look at this, for a SWAT guy to come in and say, we're doing it right, that says something. That really says something.
We also have the state police come in probably once a month and tour the building, just so they're familiar with the building. And anytime Matt is out of the building, we do get a sub SRO, and recently it's been a canine officer, so we'll have a dog in the building, which is a little frightening for the kids. So they're like, oh my gosh, there's a dog in the building, but it's awesome. It changes the whole tone of the building.
Absolutely.
So as you can see, Deputy Kraske couldn't have put it any better. It's just constantly evolving. We're constantly reviewing our plans, revising them if necessary. You saw at CB Star, certain protocols that have been adjusted because a need was established. And again, it's constantly evolving. But that doesn't, again, that's an example that we are always looking for areas of improvement. A few of the areas that we've identified are additional refresher trainings for our staff. I mentioned earlier, we provide annual training before September 15th. We feel it's important that we provide a follow-up training later in the year. It's again something that needs to be constantly on our minds. We need to provide parents and guardians and also students with resources to safety information. We've just established a website, brewsterschools.org, safety and emergency planning. We've also established safety newsletters that we began this year. We sent one out in the fall. We have a spring newsletter coming out in a few weeks, again with the topic being situational awareness, something that's come up a couple times this evening. We're going to undergo a safety audit to evaluate the effectiveness of our physical controls and our behavioral protocols, because one without the other is not going to be effective. We need both our behavioral controls and our physical controls to operate effectively in order to keep us safe. We also need to add complexity and spontaneity to our training drills. Again, going back to situational awareness, we've gotten to the point where we're very good at locking down. I just attended the JFK lockdown drill this morning. I was so impressed by the little kids, and they were out of sight in every single classroom that we observed. It was funny when we would open the door, the kids would then relax and be like, oh, he's squishing me. They did such a good job of just getting away from the doors and being quiet. But we need to now go beyond that. As we learned what happened in Florida, we need to have situational awareness. Once we're locked down, we don't want to be sitting there waiting for something to happen. We need to be prepared in case something does happen. So that's something that we're going to begin to roll out in our upcoming lockdown drills. Again, keeping in mind that we need to keep it age appropriate, as Mr. Conroy mentioned at JFK. We don't want to frighten the children, but we do need to make them aware of what would need to happen if an intruder were able to breach the door during the lockdown. So how parents and guardians can help us. You can review the shell protocols at home with your students. Again, we just posted this on our website. It was included in our fall safety newsletter. I have twin daughters who are in kindergarten. I talk to them about their lockdown drills and their evacuation drills, and I talk to them now, of course, about situational awareness. So if you can do that with your children, that would be extremely helpful. In an emergency, fortunately, we've not had too many emergencies. We've had a couple of evacuations, actually in this building 2 years in a row, one due to fumes coming out of an elevator, and then we had a transformer fire a couple of years ago. But we ask that you do not come to the schools, because we don't want you to impede the ability of our first responders to get here and resolve the situation. Listen to and follow the instructions during an emergency. We always make sure that we get out an announcement. At the end of that announcement, we always say, we'll follow up with another announcement in some period of time, so that we're able to keep you informed. And trust us and law enforcement. You saw the passion of our principals and our school resource officers to do our best to keep your children safe. That's what we're all here for. So with that, does anyone have any questions? I'm sure you do. Sure.
In the event that this person gets in the program, because all they have to do is show you ID and you get into the building, what happens? That they just start shooting and
So the question is, if a shooter were to get into the building, what would we do?
And
And
you started to shoot and, you have casualties in there.
And fortunately, we have school resource officers, and they're generally stationed near the entrances of each building, so I would defer to the school resource officers what their response would be in an active shooter situation. We practice that, but the expectation is that, we would announce a lockdown. Anybody can, scream lockdown. We would initiate the lockdown, hopefully get all the kids out of all the classrooms. And then again, they ask our school resource officers to respond.
So in that situation, our role at that time doesn't become an issue or anything like that. Our role is to address the issue at hand and to respond to that with force. And we're going to actively go after that target, and we're going to try to make the target deceased. So, our job at that point is during the drills and all that, we kind of look on and help assist the drills. But when there's an active shooter response going on, we're going to try to assess and address the threat. That would be our role. So we're all three of us would be communicating as much as we could with each other, and we'd be focused on task at hand and ending that task as quickly as possible, saving as many lives as possible.
Brewster's unique too because we have 3 SROs within one campus, you can say. But also surrounding us is a bunch of other agencies. So you have the troopers right on 22. You have MTA police that can be anywhere at any time. So we're unique that we have so much resources around. But our job, our priority would be to eliminate that threat. So immediately we're going to go wherever that incident's happening. So that would be our job. The rest of the school would be to lock down. I don't know if that addresses your...
I don't know if the.
We can't stop the actions of people
Right.
before it happens like that. I mean, but our presence alone is enough for that. But if somebody wants to harm them, they're going to try it. But Brewster's taking the extra step to put us in each school, and now they're adding an SPO to CV Star. So now you're going to have an officer in every school at this point. So
Wasn't there an officer in that school?
I cover both.
There wasn't there an officer?
Oh, in Parkland? Yeah, I can't speak for Parkland, but I think that was a different setup than how Brewster has it. So that's a
lot bigger campus.
Yeah, it's different buildings. It's almost set up like a college where it's different buildings and different. It's not like here where we're all kind of one building, or each building has their own SRO. So I can't really. I don't want to speak for a school that I don't know the setup, but from looking at reports, it looks like it's a different building.
Our training, just to maybe that's what you're trying to cover. Our training might be a little different than their training. I mean, our training is that we are training every officer around here, working the road, working the beat, wherever, is that when there's an active shooter, we're not waiting. We are, 1 man show, you're going to address that threat. We're not that, before Columbine, the theory was to wait for a couple of members and then attack it as a group. At this point, every second matters, and we're gonna, we're gonna be outmanned, we're gonna be outgunned. If they have a rifle or pistol, that's really it. We're gonna address the threat, we're gonna try to stop them, and that means sacrifice our lives, we're definitely gonna do that. And we're gonna try to address the threat. But even if we just slow them down, for the next set of group of officers that get into the building next, they can address it. It might save 1 life, it might save 2 lives, it might save 100 lives. But the point is that we're gonna address the threat as soon as possible. There's no waiting around, there's no thing for backup. We're taught, trained, we're gonna attack that threat.
Question over the gentleman?
First, I just want to thank you guys and everyone for this presentation. You answered a lot of my questions. I just have 2 questions following up on this lady's point. Your job is, if there is an active shooter, to kill him. That's not nice words. Your job is to kill him. Have you figured worst case scenario as to your location, worst place he could be, how long will it take you to get there? And the second thing is, would there ever be a local emergency that would pull you guys out? Let's say, for whatever reason, terrorist attack in Brewster.
Yes, and it's happened. And I'll address that right now. I'm a member of the SWAT team here in Putnam County. We're a part-time team, we're not a full-time team, which means our team is made up of members that are from several different police agencies and that can be assigned to several different divisions. I happen to be assigned to the Youth Bureau. We have members that are assigned to road patrol, members that are assigned to criminal investigations, narcotic investigations. We get pulled from everywhere. In the event that there is a situation that I need to be pulled from, there will be somebody that will be put in my place in the building if I'm going to be gone for any extended period of time. Just like one of the principals brought up, in the event that Brian's out sick for the day or Mike's got a training, we're going to have another deputy in their spot. You're paying for 3 deputies, you're going to have 3 deputies. That's the way it works.
Even all hands on deck emergency?
Absolutely. That's the way it works.
What about the worst case scenario that the response times when I appreciate like 1 minute building for that? Have you guys built for that? Do you have a more or less minute, 2 minutes?
I mean, that's,
We know our average response time from the bowels of our building, which is about anywhere, is approximately 3 minutes.
So when covering 2 buildings, I mean, I've never done the hall as full. It might be quicker for me to hop in the car and get down there than go through the hallway sometimes because the 8th grade wing is congested. But we had an EMS call. We had a girl who had a seizure. I was able to get there pretty quick. I mean, not super fast, but I was able to get there quick. So I think there's a lot of different elements, but now that they're adding SPO to CV Star, for me it cuts down big time. But I mean, I'm going to give it all I got to get there as quick as possible. But to train for that, no, we haven't done it. But
Just what I can't in mind, 3 minutes.
the good thing is that the way the campus is set up, that there's 4 buildings all within a small area. So the good news is the other responding officers, which will be the other SOs first, are not very far away. I mean, we're within 2 to 3 minutes of the building itself.
You have some school districts in Putnam where your closest backup is 10, 15 minutes on a good day. So we're very fortunate that we have the setup here in Brewster that we have.
Here, gentlemen in the back. Thank you for all of your efforts. So I have a question. Are we going to be working on some kind of plan to secure the perimeters of these schools so that no one can even get close to them? Through more security, more surveillance, so that we don't even have to deal with anybody inside the school. They can't even get into the school. So doors automatically lock down if there's an issue.
Yes.
Nobody can get in.
And in each of our school buildings, all exterior doors are locked during the school day.
And everything that I'm hearing is about when the shooter gets in. How do we keep them from getting close enough to the school to get in? We can get more security, more surveillance. Nobody has to get close to the schools.
There are a ton of cameras all over the campus. I even see them. We have access to all the cameras. And there's every corner. I can see where the farthest bus is. We expect over the last few years extra resources to make sure that happens. So whenever there's a sense that we don't know where, or there's a blind spot anywhere in the district, I can guarantee you there's a camera is going to be placed there.
And do we have enough security officers around each school, to make sure that all areas are covered just in case somebody gets close?
Well, we certainly have these gentlemen looking at those very same cameras in their buildings. I think either they're at a desktop or they have an iPad. So they are constantly reviewing those cameras. The people at the front desk are also looking, at cameras. So that's our first resource, is to make sure that we're looking at certain blind spots throughout the district, in the building as well as outside of the building. I know you're talking about outside of the building. But those we take very seriously, and we use those, throughout the day to make sure that we're aware. And we know when those, we're aware of if there's one that perhaps needs to be positioned differently, we do that as well.
And so the response time will be quick enough if they do see something, that suspect, to get to that person before they get near the school or get near one of these guys?
So I think the mood that Brewster has set is everybody's a security officer. Meaning that all the teachers, so I can't tell you how many times a day I'm getting called for a suspicious vehicle in the parking lot. By the time we get out, you realize it's a parent that's early for a meeting with the administrator. So I think the key thing here is everybody's a security officer. It's all the adults in the building, and they do a really good job about it. Whether it's calling to the main office and saying, hey, this just doesn't look right, or us just walking around. So I would say everybody's a security officer at this point. Nothing, I mean, everybody's on heightened alert now especially, but I just think that we do a great job in Brewster about telling everybody, like, if you see something, even if it seems silly, say something. So I think that's our best level of security right there.
And thanks so much for this whole seminar on the work that you guys do. I have 2 questions. First one is about response time for the SWAT team in the event that you have 2 active shooters with automatic weapons and you have an SRO down and it looks like you definitely need backup. And then my second question is on the situational awareness. I think every parent feels really uncomfortable with the idea that their kids are in the closets. The active shooters probably know that they're in the closets hiding because they went to school and went through lockdowns. Is there to be looking at different ways and even possible evacuations on an as-needed basis if you are in that situation? Or is there door jams, which I know are against the fire code, but in that situation are used to kind of slow and bide some time? I'm just kind of curious about that.
To answer part of your first question, Matt will know better about the response times and all that, the PRT units, but just understand that when an active shooter call will come out of school, you're going to have every local police officer that is in the earshot of hearing this radio transmission is coming to the school. Okay? They don't have to be told to come. They're coming. I worked for 10 years. When there's serious calls, you could be 30 miles away. You're going. Just have a little sense of ease that it's not going to be the people that are going to respond first are going to be the local guys that are on the road. There's going to be a state police officer from Connecticut that's driving through 84. Here's the call. He's coming. It's the way it works. Like these active shooters situations, unfortunately, but guys, people come from all over the place, and sometimes there's officers at the right place at the right time, and they hear the call come out, and they're gonna try to come and address the situation themselves. All right, so that.
If I can build on that, the majority of active killer situations, specifically in schools, are very short. So by the time even a full-time SWAT team to show up, it's probably over. All right, more often than not, by the time law enforcement has physical contact with a killer, it's over. So, and you're still getting police officers in there. I mean, Parkland had over 100 police officers there within a couple of minutes. So, believe me, you will not be short of cops if the call comes out. And you had a second question about maybe enhancing lockdown. We've been
looking at different,
and that goes back to what I was saying about
and down the door situation.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was talking about, how our training is always evolving at the district with respect to what we can do. We've heard on how well our kids are doing the lockdown, and they're doing great. Well, the time's going to come, and it's going to come very soon, where we're going to start enhancing the lockdown. We know lockdown is not enough. We get it. We've seen it. So what we're going to do now is we are now going to use the basis of a lockdown and teach our kids how to make themselves safer within a classroom. I don't want to get into too much detail about it yet. It is still something we're working on. It is in its infancy. I can tell you that we do plan on actively pursuing this so it can get implemented as soon as possible.
When somebody is coming into the room, each one will be one entrance and one exit.
That's exactly how all each buildings are.
Have security there and then scan people as they're coming in. Make them go through like a New York airport, going through some. Do you know those efforts? That's what they do in the cities. I'm a teacher in the city schools.
Just understand that if you have somebody coming to do arming a building, they don't care about. No, I'm saying like the scanners and all that. That's not going to be terms for them. They're there for a purpose and a mission. They made their mindset up already. So that would be more of stopping a kid from bringing something into the school. I mean, honestly, if somebody has had the mindset and they're gonna come in to do harm, they're out of that mindset and
But they're doing their own business, the
Well, you know, and the fact of the matter is, Sandy Hook was locked. He got it.
I mean, there's
That's
unfortunately
that.
ways to get in buildings.
That door was, the building was 100% secure, and he got it. If somebody wants in, they're gonna get it. We are doing everything we can to make sure that that doesn't happen. But I don't think we can absolutely give you 100% guarantee. Which is why we have these safeguards in place.
Along those lines, my question is a little bit more specific to JFK. And while I'm completely confident with the front entry security, since it's a one-level school and it's surrounded by a lot of classrooms that have multiple window access, is there anything being done to safeguard any of the windows or even just prevent transparency so that someone can't see all the students in those classrooms from outside?
Okay, so I'm John Conroy, JFK Assistant Principal. So we are talking about it, but it's only a conversation as a result, again, of what happened. You're back to your situational awareness. Within our building, we have been blessed to have a new extension. And there, we have beautiful classrooms with glass doors. So what we've done is we have frosted them. So we have talked, we're in conversation about just what was mentioned. What do we do now for the rest of the building, both the exterior and the interior? So we started discussing it there. Well, we've only had one safety meeting since the incident in Florida, so it's in conversation. But how much and cost will, of course, be a factor, but it's something we're certainly looking at. Cost.
So my question is, when you talk about the substitutes that come in, do you ever have or maybe consider that they come in also when you're there just to learn the buildings like you guys know the buildings? Because to his point, if we're talking about response time, if a person comes in as a substitute and that happens to be a day that something terrible happens, he's not going to know the buildings like you gentlemen do. So we have to get that training in there, I guess, my suggestion, or a suggestion, to make sure that they can get from point A to B as quickly as you might, and know the shortcuts that you guys, you know. Because it could happen on the day they start the job, you know.
That's definitely something that would be brought back to our department and our classroom. But they kind of address that in a little bit of a way. We kind of have specific lists, so when one of us is out, there's a certain group of guys that are on that list that they call through to fill this position, that are familiar with schools and that are in the schools more, and have more trainings. But the reality is sometimes maybe all those people aren't available and there's going to be somebody else that's going to fill a spot. But, and that would be addressed at a department level.
Well, the state police, barracks here at Brewster, as well as Sheriff's Department mandates that all members attached to the Road Patrol Division do school familiarization visits while they're on road patrol. It's documented. So.
And they do come in our building.
They walk the buildings, with us, when we point out the layout of the building, if they want a copy of our floor plan, we give it to them so they can have it. It's something that we want them to keep in their patrol car. I can't expect one police officer to memorize the floor plan of every school building in the county, let alone in one school district when they're not attached to that district. You know, I know the layout of my building very well. I know the layout of their buildings very well because I've been in the district for so long. But if you put me in Putnam Valley High School, I'm going to have no idea where to go. But by going in and doing familiarization visits, at least we're going to have an idea of what the building looks like. God forbid we get stationed there, or if we get called there on an emergency. So I know the Sheriff's Department does it. I know the local state police do it. So they do that because they have the same concern.
I want to say thank you for watching our children, but my question is, we're always talking about these active shooters coming in. What about children coming in? You never know, somebody can take their handgun from his father, mother, put it in a briefcase or his little knapsack and come in and wants to show his other friends. I mean, do we have metal detectors set up for these kids when they're coming into their entrances? I mean, that is something to consider, because at night I'll sit outside, have a cigarette too, and I hear gunshots. I don't know where they're coming from, but could be somebody killing a deer in the woods that's bothering him. So is anybody checking out children in that situation? I mean, maybe high school and middle school, maybe. Because I hear all the time in New York City.
We can't randomly search them.
No, but going through a detector where, kids.
We don't have that set up, and quite frankly, I don't think there's a lot of tolerance for wanting to have that set up, where, metal detectors. I think, what we shared earlier, making sure that children have trusted adults who know them, like Mr. Clark and Mr. Jesus described, having, a psychologist and social worker out front. Those are the first faces that they meet, that, care about children and know children, that they see these officers when they come in, that we have a system, anonymous alerts that's available, that everyone's watching, as Deputy Nooner said, that everyone's, as an officer, watching and being, mindful of sort of how differently a child is today than they were the day before. So I think that those are still the measures that we are focusing on, is knowing our children, listening, having resources available. School counselors are available. We have mental health counselors available, psychologists and social workers, and all of the teachers and aides and monitors and bus drivers and bus monitors. Everyone's really mindful and watching, because they're also part of all the training that we do. And we hope that will be the basis for knowing whether or not a child, one day picks up something and decides to bring it in, that their friend tells, and quite frequently, their friends tell more often than not, because they know when things are wrong and they don't want their friend to be in trouble. So we're looking to that as a measure, rather than installing metal detectors.
See, I came from Yonkers, and I remember going to high school and never having any metal detectors. I moved up here. My brother was younger than I was, 16 years, and he was growing up, and my school, Gorton, ended up getting metal detectors. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, okay, this is just like Gorton, okay. And then 20 years from now, we'll end up having it. I'm just saying that you see it all down in the southern districts of Westchester. A lot of those schools, Mount Vernon, Roosevelt, all of them have it. What is it to take that they're just gonna climb up and get to that place? That's all. I know everybody's watching out for kids, but it just takes that one little slippage. I don't know. If kids are all going through metal detectors, you can hear some binging, pull the kids out. It's just like when you're going to a store and shop. You have something in your bag, somebody forgot to take that tag off, call you back in. I don't know, just a suggestion.
We hope we never get to that point. We're going to keep focusing on the measures that that you heard us describe here: awareness, monitoring cameras, watching, making sure that students are safe, so that we can, know about difficulties that occur and be on top of them forward from that. But thank you for the question.
First off, I want to say thank you to you guys. I want to know, after active shooter threat has been accessed with, what happens after that? Like, exactly, how are the parents reunited with their kids?
Good question. So that doesn't happen immediately. After a lockdown, school has to be released by law enforcement and law enforcement only. It's a very time-consuming process. Because during that process, we're searching the building as well to make sure there aren't any threats. Based on whatever the situation is, more often than not, there'll be an off-site location that's already been predetermined where the students will go for reunification. There'll be buses that will be set up. Transportation will take them back to the reunification site. You'll be advised, obviously, through the robocall system, email, Twitter, smoke signal. I'm telling you, you're going to know where to go. I promise you that. That's
we don't want
where
you
go.
there first, so that's why we're not going to tell you where it is now.
You had mentioned the safety drills you go through in the classrooms. Do you talk about when the kids aren't in the classrooms, say they're in the bathrooms? And then another question to that follow-up is, do you have speakers in the bathrooms that when you do these lockdown alerts that someone who's not in the classrooms can hear?
I'm not gonna go over the procedures that we tell the kids necessarily, just it's for safety of them, but I'm gonna use this example. So I went into all the classrooms at CV Star to talk about if you're in the bathroom, if you're at recess, if you're at your specials. And it was like the next day after going into a class, I don't know who the kid was. Went into the classroom, spoke about the bathroom, where you should go. And I'm going clearing the school after the lockdown, and I hear the water running. I'm like, it's gonna be a flood. The kid listened to me and left the water running, ran out. So we do talk about what they're to do in certain situations. So for my schools, I know I go over it, so.
We do too at every level.
What about the speakers?
These speakers in the hallways, and I haven't had an issue not hearing the speakers in the bathrooms. I don't know if any of the administrators in your buildings have, but typically during that time, we have, or even during task time, you can hear the speakers just about everywhere, except my office, which is great.
They're usually loud enough because I look for the volume button and turn it down, so they're definitely loud enough for the kid. I mean, that kid was in the bathroom, heard it, so I would say loud enough that you can hear it.
Question, you mentioned water. So my 5-year-old is in JFK, and today he came home, he told me about the drills that he read today, and it was very interesting, as he said, because they were, they were in the bathroom, and he said, Mommy, it was so silly, the water kept turning on and off by itself, and then it occurred to me that it's probably on a sensor. That's the sound. They're in there told to be quiet, and now there's a bunch of kindergartners in the bathroom, and the water's going on and off, which is not quiet. And then he said one of them flushed the toilet by accident. So it's more like, hey, we're in here. And I want to, is that an issue? How do we prevent that? I mean, I don't know.
Well, we do talk about it in our training, in our drills, and there is an adult in there with them, trying to manage them, but you have 20 kids that are 5 years old, it's going to be hard to manage, and, unfortunately, one of the kids might be just moving their hands, and it's near the center, and it's being involved. We talked about trying to figure out a way just to have them shut off the faucets, and we're looking into that. But the good news is, to be honest with you, you can't hear that water running in the hallway. No.
Actually, that's a follow-up question I have. And I've been there 100 times.
So that is a bathroom inside the classroom. So
Right.
it's a door, and then there's another door. I got cinder block walls.
The wall that shares the hallway
Yep.
with the bathroom in the classroom, I think that shares a wall. I can't remember, are those cinder block walls?
They are.
Okay.
And the doors aren't matched up, so it's not you have a door to the outside.
No, because
So
my
you have a sound barrier there, and it's pretty good.
So they.
All right, so, but to bring your point up, we do talk about that. Actually, the teachers and the aides, we do address that. We say, keep your hands down, don't touch the toilets, don't put on the water. But yes, our bathrooms are on sensors, so you should be within 5 feet of it. And unfortunately, there's a lot of kids in that area.
And what about the walls? Because the wall, again, is shared with out with the corridor. So like, God forbid, somebody with an automatic weapon, and they know that there's a gigantic group of people all together, just on the other side of that wall, and then they're going to get through there. These cinder block walls.
Potentially.
A lot depends on, there are a lot of factors to that question. And, I can't say yes or no. A lot depends on those factors. When the schools are built, when the schools are remodeled and rebuilt, they have to be a certain safety code. And they have to be brought up to their current codes. School is updating as they do. Like in JFK, it's just completely remodeled, so everything is up to the most current code that has been set forth by the city.
Can you tell me if substitute teachers will be receiving safety training as well?
The expectation is that, yes, all staff, including new staff, should be receiving the training materials. So we did speak with HR that we're going to make sure that this is included in new staff, part of the new staff orientation.
First of all, thanks for having this presentation today. It's really helpful. I wanted to offer an idea. I'm in the special education PTA, and one thing that I've been trying to help out is with mental health. And we actually have a mental health presentation this coming Wednesday here at 7 p.m. I think that everybody knows the majority. I can't say for all of them, but the majority of the shooters have been students, or say disgruntled students, kids with mental health issues, etc. So an idea that I had was perhaps we can create a peer mentorship program here in the district. I remember when I was in college, I was actually a peer leader, and our job was to seek out kids that were alone and get them involved, become their friend, whatever it was. And I really think that that might help kind of nipping things in the bud, so to speak, or at least be on that side of things. So it's just an idea to propose to the district. I don't think there's even an age minimum to start that. But if these kids are, these shooters are disgruntled or have mental health issues, or they're fighting back because they're being bullied or whatever it is, I think having peer mentors, would really help them a lot.
We have an active multi-tiered system of supports team that actually looks at lots of data to determine, whether there are students who might have difficulties. So each building level team meets regularly. They screen attendance data, they screen disciplinary data, they talk to educators and monitors and aides and others who have eyes, custodians with eyes on children, to try to make sure that they do know whether or not their children who might be exhibiting certain behaviors that might be of concern, and then make sure that whether it's a school counselor, psychologist, social worker, that team then refers the child for some type of assistance. We do have 2 mental health counselors. So that, in addition to the psychologists, social workers, and school counselors. So I think those, that's one process of just being able to know regularly, and that screening occurs all throughout the year. But I think that suggestion of making sure that there's someone else, a buddy, is never a bad thing. I think that a couple of years ago, I know that was something organized by a school counselor, a social worker at the high school, that they put every child's name up in the high school and had everyone to take a look at that list to see if there was someone that an adult did not know. And that, is a phenomenal way of being able to determine, is there someone who's like, a loner, someone who no one knows, no one's identified, no one's connected to. That's very important. The other way that we are looking at that is through a recent school climate survey. And that school climate survey asks about, ask students, do they know anyone? Is there someone who really knows me and cares about me? And that data is going to be the basis of a lot of conversation at each school level to determine, if we have children answering that no one knows, or they don't have anyone they can talk to if they have difficulty, that's going to be critical information for us to figure out what do we do to make sure that there's never a student that can say ever in any survey that there's no one that they can talk to. And so we're paying really close attention to that. We just started looking at that information a couple of weeks ago.
If I could also just reiterate, we're talking about preventative measures that we need to take, and that's so important, and that's such a key piece of what we do on a daily basis. Dr. Henning mentioned the MTSS team. We talk about kids constantly, all the time, kids who are struggling. Our counselors are very, very involved in their lives, and we will go to whatever means necessary to support the kids or the families. We'll go to home visits. We'll take children to the hospital if we feel they need to go to the hospital. So there's so much that we do and that we've done that isn't in the news media on a 24-hour basis, that we've saved a lot of kids' lives in a lot of different ways throughout the years. I think not just us, but I think all schools do that because we're very proactive in learning as much as we can about kids, and all the time we're trying to bring kids together. We're trying to tell them to be kind to each other. We just a bunch of sixth graders just started organically with the guidance counselor a kindness club, So there's all these things popping up all the time. We have PBIS committee where we talk about ways that we can improve the school climate. We get the student government involved. So we try to uncover every single angle we can in terms of improving the overall school climate and really targeting kids who we feel need that extra support. And again, I mean, I've gone on home visits, counselors have gone on home visits, we've ridden in police cars, we've had police officers go to people's houses. So there's so much that we do that you're not going to see every day just because, you know, there's a lot of people here that do a really good job on a daily basis. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for the informational meeting, especially in light of the poor parent attendance. I just want to thank you guys again for everything you're doing. Bruce was very proactive, and I really appreciate that. Is the district looking at any kind of like federal, state, or local grants to assist with security or preventive measures? I know some things are out there.
Right now, I mean, we certainly take advantage of you know, all of the expertise of our SRO. We're really unique in that regard. And the reason we don't have an SPO now is other districts are looking for an SRO. So, you know, there's a
Thank you again. That's uniform presence. I love it.
It's hugely important, and the fact that, you know, there's a car out front, you know, that sends another message, you know, that you know, there are officers in our buildings who are available and ready to take action if needed. The camera system has been one of the enhancements. Jim, who's sitting right in front of you, is deeply involved in that in his department, Jim Trelaw, right there, who is constantly talking about where the cameras are, the age of the cameras, the quality of the cameras, because again, that's another set of eyes all around the district that's important for us. I don't know, you know, if arming, putting more, you know, security all around is really going to prevent what we all want to prevent, right? None of us want what we're thinking. But the reality is, you know, we can't control, you know, what we don't know about. You know, all we can do is continuously be aware of where our children are, hoping that they'll always seek out a trusted adult, showing them kindness, talking about kindness, you know, helping them to feel as though they belong everywhere, that they're not alienated or bullied, or so all of those things are our concentration. And not to say that, you know, if the taxpayers were to say, you know, go out there and get more security, of course we would do that. But I think there are other things that we really need to focus on, and it's really just making sure that every child who walks into every building feels cared for, loved, and that they belong.
Hey guys, thanks for holding this tonight. It's been helpful. I have a kind of a two-part question. The first one being, has there been outreach to the students in the middle school and the high school to let them, kind of to tag along with the gentleman's question, to let them work within their own community, because it is sort of a separate community that they don't feel like coming to an adult? Is there outreach from the leadership here, and specifically from the police officers and the SROs and the future SBO, to not only discuss the things that they can do to help each other preventatively, but then also from a law enforcement standpoint, should the badness come around again, do the kids know the difference? And I'm not talking about kids at H.H. Wells, well, you could do it at H.H. Wells in the high school, but do the kids know the difference between cover and concealment? I noticed up there that there's going to be another security audit done. And I'm aware that there was a security audit done about 10 years ago. And 0 recommendations from that security audit were implemented here at the high school, from my understanding. Something, as an example, would be planters in front of the glass entrances. I was told that the planters that they look restrictive. Meanwhile, they also can serve as cover should something bad happen. So what's the point of having another security audit done if the previous implementation or recommendations weren't implemented? That's kind of the second part, but again, to the first part is, what's being, I mean, has the high school come together in the auditorium or in the gym and had the SROs speak to them and kind of get down into the weeds, like, guys, we need your help? You know, because it's one thing to talk about it amongst administrators and to the parents. It's another thing for the police officers, law enforcement, and the administrators to talk directly to the people that could potentially be hurt the worst.
The good thing about the high school is our kids, participate in so many different activities, and I'm given the opportunity to speak to these kids during their activities. So that is my form. Instead of calling everybody into one big giant room all at once, when everybody's got to listen to me drone on about stuff, I get to meet them in smaller group settings. Whether it's up in the ILC, whether it's in the gym because of a sporting activity, theater, I'm always yelling at them. They know that. They hate me by now because I just keep drilling safety into their heads. Guys, keep that door closed. Hey, be careful with that stuff. They know me. And I'm going to focus on areas of safety that are more important to that specific group because that's what they're going to latch on. That's how they're going to start gravitating, and then they're going to start listening to me. Because then they're going to have to start listening to me talk about the general safety, like what you want me to talk to them about. So the whole idea, at least on my end, is I gotta get them with something. I gotta get them with what they're interested in. With the theater kids, it's when I meet with them as a theater group. When it's the athletes, it's when I'm meeting with them as athletes. Okay? And then we go and we can start talking to them. We have this new YouTube channel that the school put out that's going to enable us to reach the entire district with one presentation done. One presentation is going to be able to reach every single student in the district. So technology is going to help us to reach all of our students. So A, we don't need to interrupt them and take away from class time. They can do it during study halls, they can do it during free periods or in lunch or whatever. We can change the message as needed without having to interrupt their school day at lunch. So we are looking at different ways to do just that.
I can tell you that the students, I met with some seniors today and I asked them, what can we do differently? And one of the things that they said was they wish that more doors were open. They have to walk all the way from the tennis courts to get into the single entry. Or if they're behind, they have to walk around. So they're aware of that. I thought that was pretty, phenomenal that they could, they were complaining about it. But that's assurance that they are paying attention to the need to do that, and they realize it. And they said, all we want is if we could get a parking spot that was closer. Not that we should open the doors, but they're aware that that single entry point is really critical. So that was sort of like unsolicited, and it just happened to be something that pertains to this whole notion of their own awareness about what's going on and the need for that to take place.
Correct. And then in regards to the previous audit that was done and the future security audit that's coming up, and implementing things that were already recommended rather than spending more district money on another audit when one has already been paid for and there's information there to draw from. And if there's another one done because of another aspect of the threat assessment model, then I can understand that. But is there any thought to implementing what was previously recommended?
I don't think any of us were here, so we'd have to find that audit and then crosswalk it with what is new. What we do know is, unfortunately, because of all the shootings, new information emerges. I mean, you never heard of situational awareness prior to Marjorie Stoneman. That was a big part of what needs to be a focus. That is, I'm in my classroom, doing my lesson. If I hear an alarm, I need to pay attention to that, and not just say, oh, that, and ignore the second one that comes around. So that's one of the important new pieces of information. So I'm not sure if an audit 10 years ago would have captured that, or captured even, what happened in Newtown. So, while I would be interested, in seeing that audit, I think, there's a lot of, unfortunately, more incidents that help us to, even be more prepared and more aware. But we will be, I don't know who has that, but we will take a look at our
I would say Mr.
archives.
Bates probably has it.
Who does?
Probably Mr. Bates.
Okay, you're right. We'll find that and take a look at that and see whether there are things there that are still applicable that we need to pay attention to. Thank you.
Thank you again for
question is, I can't let go of it, so I'm just gonna ask. I know how you say when everything happens, unfortunately, you take it in and then you regroup and come up with the scenarios. And I don't know if you can come up with every single scenario, but a scenario that I heard about fire really disturbed me was that the active shooter pulled a fire alarm so that the kids could go out and help it. So I'm sure you guys are addressing that, but I just wanted to throw it out there. And I know there's so many different scenarios, and I don't even want to go to the different scenarios, but you guys are thinking about addressing
That's actually part of our training now. They, as we address faculty, staff, and students, they're under the impression, hey, if we're under a lockdown and a fire alarm goes off, this is where common sense comes into play. We need to make the determination, what is the bigger threat at this point. Now, the fire alarm may go off because, hey, there's an actual fire in there. Or the fire alarm may be going off because the killer thinks, hey, I'm smarter than they are. They're going to come out because that's what they're trained to do. What's been ingrained in our heads for how many years when you hear the fire alarm? Out of your seats, be quiet, walk to the door, find your body, walk out the building, down the stairs. So that's what they're hoping for. We train for them not to. And our students may find in a lockdown drill someday soon that a fire alarm may go off. And let's see how they react. And then we can use that as a teachable moment.
Questions?
You have like an online place that parents could put suggestions or thoughts coming forward?
We have a website, or a web address, facilities@roosterschools.org. You can send to our facilities website, the same website that you'll be able to find the safety webpage. Any other questions? Thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate your time. Good night.
Thank you.